It's about to connect. It's preparing. Okay, you're live streaming now.
Okay. Thank you everyone for showing up. This is the Board Goals Subcommittee meeting to help us kick off and get our board goals for this year for the 2020-2021 school year. I want to thank Ms. Kellen and Ms. Rappaport for coming in. I know Mr. Lumia is trying to get in now, and it might be a few more minutes. And especially Ms. Rappaport, she's had to come from us all the way from across the country, and I appreciate taking the time today. I would like to say that I think that we have a really great group of board trustees. First of all, we are just 9 individuals with 9 outlooks, but yet we seem to work together some way, somehow. And I really do appreciate you guys taking the time this week. So does anybody have any questions before we start? No? All right.
I do actually.
Okay, please.
It has to do with what we can and cannot discuss.
Okay. What if you want to know what we can and cannot discuss?
Well, the question has to do if part of our goals has to do with the superintendent's evaluation, is that something we can discuss in this meeting?
No, we cannot. We can discuss that at the next board meeting of executive session with everybody involved at that point, because it has to be done in executive session, anything to do with his evaluation, as far as what I've been told and what I've read. So that part of it, we would have to wait for a board executive session.
All right, can we delineate that is something that we want as a board goal and delay the specifics of it for the executive session, so that on Monday, when we're being asked to outline our base goals, that is included as one of our goals?
May I say, before you continue, may I say something?
Yes.
He's leaving in 8 or 9 months. To put so much emphasis on his evaluation this year, just a waste of time, in my opinion. I think we should set policy for whoever the next superintendent is, because from what I gather, speaking to the lawyer, he has to approve the methodology by which we.
Okay, please don't discuss this on public. You're live streaming right now.
Yeah, we can't discuss.
Strictly stick to the goals, okay?
Live streaming. As far as I'm concerned, it's
anything to do with the superintendent. We have to, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Pedro, is we have to wait for executive session, and that's the only thing I'm trying to clear up. Is anything to do with the superintendent is executive session.
That's right.
Of a board meeting.
The charge of this subcommittee is to work on the district goals and the board goals.
Right, and anything that we would consider with that aligns with the superintendent, we have to discuss as a full group in executive session.
Correct. Thank you.
That being said, we can bring that up at the next executive session meeting for a board as a whole to discuss in private. I believe we can amend our board goals throughout the year as well if something comes up that we need to address. Because there's nothing in any of the guidelines that I found that says we can't amend if there's something comes up. That being said, last year we had great leadership with Ms. Rappaport and going over, and we had a wonderful list of stuff that we tried to accomplish. I believe we had quite a few things. Some of it we were able to touch on. Some of it was not able to. Some of it was because of things going on in the area. Does anybody have any feedback on last year's goals that they'd like to touch on?
I mean, only that I think that they're great. But I'm not sure if they are SMART goals, you know, in that they're specific and measurable and timely and blah, blah. So I think that, you know, if we're really interested in making change, you have to limit the number of goals, you have to prioritize, you have to make them very specific, and they have to be something that you can measure. Otherwise, it's a wish list.
I agree.
So,
Yeah,
I
I'd like
agree.
to, Ms. Rappaport said exactly what I was thinking, that we need fewer goals. They should be more specific. They should be measurable. We should have some idea of what we have accomplished. And today, in this particular situation this year, with us not knowing what is going on with the schools, it's going to be very difficult to set goals that can be achievable realistically, and because the circumstances are so different.
I agree. There's a lot more on our plate this year. Not more on our plate, but just a different plate. We changed out the silverware and the settings. So we're not using the same china this year. We're kind of using some new china, and therefore we have to kind of alter what we put on our plates this year, I think. I agree with both of you that we had a lot on it last year. Some of it was more values than I would say goals, because some of it is, you know, achieve but never get there kind of things, like wishful stuff. This year I did reach out to all of the other members of the board this week, and we discussed, you know, I asked everybody, you know, what's something you really would like to see us work on, and I was able to get a bunch of stuff back, but I haven't been able to hear from Linda or Peggy. So if you guys want to each take a turn and tell me what you would really like to see, I think a lot of it can be intertwined, what everybody has said. So maybe if we can figure it out and then maybe come up with something that we all really agree on. Ms. Kellen?
Why don't you go first, Linda?
Okay, Linda.
why?
Well, I don't know. I really, until I hear what other people were
Uh-huh.
saying, it's hard to say what direction we're looking at.
Right.
Well,
I
okay,
mean,
if you want.
it would be nice to be privy to what everyone else said.
Mhm,
Let me
You
just
know,
say what I
before-
said, okay?
Otherwise, we're going to be redundant.
mhm.
And
I'll volunteer as to what I said.
Okay, Mr. Lumi, I was going to read you first, but go ahead.
I said, first of all, these should be our goals, the board goals. Improve student achievement in all academic areas. That to me could be measurable, and I think it's realistic. Provide opportunities for students to utilize what they learn in the classroom to be utilized with outside activities. You explore the different ways to engage the staff so that the fear is taken out.
so that what is taken out?
Fear,
Here.
FEAR?
yeah,
Yes,
afraid,
ma'am.
being afraid. Investigate the pros and cons of closing a Vassar Elementary School.
That being said, I will read you what everybody else came up with. Mr. Slowshower was realistic honor roll. Revised qualifications. If a student does not take honors classes, how are they honor roll? Entire thing needs to be revamped. No way hundreds of kids are honor students, especially when teachers give honors and regents students the same assignment. To me, that would be something that would go to the curriculum committee to review. Some of these things, I think, as great as they are, might be better served if we refer them to the appropriate committee. Some of the ideas that are
Wait,
being,
Peggy, can we set a policy on that?
Yeah,
Years
I
ago, we did set a policy as to what constitutes honor roll and non-honor roll. I think we have a policy on that. I believe we do.
yes, and I think that's one of the policies we're reviewing this year in our 3-year review. I agree, because I could never figure out why students in totally different curriculums were, you know, getting honor roll or not honor roll. I think there's a need for two basic ways of evaluating students, how well they're doing in whatever program they're in, and how they're doing compared to the entire school population. And that's not clear. It's kind of fudged, so no one seems to know how they're being evaluated or what the grades mean.
Okay. So that, I mean, it's a valid concern, and it sounds like both policy and curriculum would be in on this one.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's per se a goal, or if it's just something that as a board we can follow up and, you know, and look into as maybe a workshop situation, because some of this stuff can be workshops, I think, not so much goals. Mr. Rubin came up with a form of cultural sensitivity / melting pot, how we are as a district and how we observe it. I don't know how, which is, you know, obviously something in the times right now, it seems to be something that we need to look at. Mr. Spencer came up with one that actually I personally happen to really like. It's called cultural responsiveness. Possible district / school committees, where we have a couple situations going on in our district right now. We're not going to discuss the different situations, but that supposedly have been birds of paradise of, you know, on the table, but sometimes coming to us at us through petitions and other means that maybe some of us haven't realized have been such a big controversy. And a cultural responsiveness would be individual schools. If there's things going on that need to be reported and looked at, they can be looked at as a school level and maybe brought to a district level and eventually brought to the board. So it's all the way around. It's not just any one thing. It could be something with the honors. It could be something with the sports program. It could be something with a cultural, but basically it would be a committee based mostly out of schools at the school level, and then come back to the board as a whole to let us know if there's issues that are going on. I thought that was really good.
I believe the superintendent,
Also,
I'm sorry, Marie. I believe
yes,
the superintendent in a weekly memo review addressed that particular issue. I think he did.
this week,
Well, I don't know when it was. Hold on a minute.
I think hold on.
It was the week of July 1st, July 10th.
Yes, there was something
That's what he
mentioned,
said.
right,
Let me just read what he said, all right?
to move forward. Yeah, so
Members-
July
members
10th.
Of our CKS community, I started to petition for a change of the whatever. And so right now, the senior staff administration.
John, we're live. Don't read the weekly memo on live.
Well, and anyway, it says if something has to be student initiated first, then support from the teacher and staff and so forth. So it's gonna be
Right.
student
So
initiated.
this would just be a
Yeah.
board goal to help reinforce something that he's been discussing and to help bring to fruition is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Mr. Lopez was responses and communications back. Mr. Odoms had social awareness training. This is different concept from diversity training. This would be for teachers and district as a whole. To me, I would think that would go more in professional development, but that's me. Number 2, he put improvement in technology training for teachers. Again, I think that's something that we all strive for, but that's the professional development question. The next one, I believe, is collective bargaining. So it's really not even something that we should look at. Teachers' utilization of technology to teach during closures for inclement weather and COVID building closures. That would have to go back to collective bargaining, because some of this, like right now, we're in the pandemic emergency stage, but we can't force things just because we have a snow day. I think that has to go back to collective bargaining. We'd have to look into it, but I from what I could find in policy, that would have to go back to collective bargaining. We can't force teachers to do that. And fourth, he put students learn the history of Wappinger's Native American tribe and the African American slave trade in the Hudson Valley, and that would be a curriculum committee, maybe possibly suggestion, in my opinion.
Well, it can be a curriculum meeting focus, but if we make it a goal, then it becomes a requirement. Do we have the authority to say we want this curriculum implemented in our schools?
I don't
think we do.
we can require anything. I think we can ask curriculum to look at it, but we can't require them to teach it, as far as I know.
So
And
what exactly are we doing with our board goals if everything is under the auspices of a different committee?
Some of these were, I think, wish lists for some of these people, and that's fine. I mean, mine is communication. I would love to see a goal of better response for communications.
But you can't mandate a response from the community. You know, you can make better communication from our end.
Well, that's where I'm talking from our end. Sometimes I would like to see us at least acknowledge, if not give a full answer, at least acknowledge.
Acknowledge.
On the part of
Acknowledge
whom?
when
On the
people
part of
come
whom?
to us or to others within our purview. If the public comes to us, we don't always have to say, yes, we're going to do this, or yes, no, we're not going to do that. But just to acknowledge them so that it doesn't become the I've asked and asked and asked and nobody's responding kind of thing.
You mean on the part of, you're talking about a part of community, or you're talking about a part of board members?
I think it's not the community to us, but I think maybe the way we as a district in-house respond out. Sometimes acknowledging is a big part of it. Just to, like I said, we don't always have to give a response, but to just say, thank you for your information, we're looking into it. We're not giving a yes, we're not giving a no, we're not giving a high five or a low five or anything of that. We're not making any promises. We're just saying thank you. We're acknowledging that somebody has sent us information. We're validating their concerns. That's all that I feel, needs to be done.
I thought that the board president is the only person who has the authority to respond to individual
Yes, on the board.
community
end,
members.
yes.
What?
On the board end, yes. And I'm assuming that, I don't see all of John's responses. I know Peggy did it, and the ones I have seen, John does respond to, to
I
make them.
respond,
feel like
I
they're
respond
heard.
to every email that I get.
I believe you do,
So
John. I do.
the next question is, are we talking about board to board to the administration? Because I think insofar as responded
Even
to the
sometimes administration to board.
or administration,
A communication between us and the administration, I think is sometimes needed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Acknowledgement.
but how does that translate into a board goal that can be measured? It would have to be something like every time a community member asks a question, they are answered within a certain amount of time. Or every time a board member asks for information, they are answered within a certain amount of time. That's a measurable goal. Otherwise, it's a wish list. So
I
this is
believe
why
in
I'm
acknowledgement.
I'm confused about
I
this
think
process.
I think a 72-hour response of just acknowledging, thank you, we received your information is not a hard thing.
So
I'm not,
that's a goal. That's measurable.
so.
yeah, like
let's-
it should not, it's, right.
Do we think, look, the three of us are here, do we think that's a goal that should be put on? Because let's set up, we can keep talking and talking and talking and talking. Let's set up specific goals. I've made some suggestions. Does anybody disagree, agree?
Well,
It's
I think that having those academic requirements during this year
gonna be
might
hard. I agree.
might
I
be really a
agree.
problem. I mean, I think any other year, I'd say, okay, fine. But
And we have to be careful because we've kind of listed improved student achievement in all academic areas. It's kind of been listed on the last 3 years worth of goals.
That the problem is, let me
I
just,
go back.
that we would
we
never,
make it
we have,
more
as a
manageable?
board, we never, I don't think we've ever got a report about student achievement. You know, kids are taking the reading, for example, my big, has been on the board. My biggest concern has been that students take exams, reading exams, for example, and they get a score, which is a cut score. That cut score could be a 35 out of 100, basically, and they pass. That to me is that's not achievable. I would like to see a report whereby the actual student grades are submitted and not the cut score grades. That's the only way you're gonna see improvement. See, that pass, to me, is not sufficient. You want to pass at least you pass on your own as to oppose pass on a cut score. And I'm like, that to me is measurable. I mean, from year to year should be so many kids got 70 on their own. The following year, so many people got 75 on their own. That to me is measurable. You can find out, hey, they're
Right.
improving. As opposed
Yes.
to relying on cut scores. Cut scores don't mean anything to me. They're stupid.
Does the state send us the raw scores as well as the cut scores?
No, we don't get the raw scores. That's a
So
problem.
then how do we know?
Well, they have those raw scores. The
Yeah.
district has the raw scores.
So they can give us it to the
They
board.
give us the raw scores. I mean,
Well,
I
then
like
that
to
would
see
be
raw
good.
scores from year to year to year. That's how you measure it, whether
Mhm.
we're improving or not. So it's measurable. I mean, Linda wants things which are measurable and achievable. And I think that's one thing that's lacking, in my opinion.
Okay, so what you're saying is we can get the raw scores.
I believe
we
we can
don't
get the raw.
have it.
I asked for the raw scores last year,
Well, that would make a
Anyway,
good goal
that's
then
that'd be a good
to
goal.
say
All
that
right,
we want to
so
see
why-
those.
Linda, what do
So
you
why
think about
don't we make that a goal as far as setting a guide to get raw scores and compare from previous years?
this year's gonna be a problem. As Linda said, this year's gonna be a problem. I know it's gonna be a problem, but at least if it cannot be done this year, at least we have a goal that's measurable and I think it's achievable.
Well, not only that, we can also set up because this would be something that we would look at every year. Once the goal is achieved, but we're still looking at it, it's a
Yep,
follow-up
I
type of
agree.
thing.
And
But
actually,
we
we
can
could,
set up
policy.
we could compare. I mean,
and the way to do it and set up the procedures to do that as a board goal this year then.
I think so. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? But I think that's important.
I think that is a measurable goal to set up a procedure and policy to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
So let's make that one goal, all right? Does
All right.
everybody agree with that?
Yes.
That sounds good. So if we have an academic goal, perhaps also a communications goal, if we'd like to refine that, Marie, as Linda had a suggestion about within a certain length of time, is that
Right.
what we want?
I would like to see something where we have a certain length of time, again, it's not that we have to provide a definitive answer or
And then an acknowledgement.
provide an acknowledgement.
Fine. So let's make that a second goal. Who's the English person? Linda? Okay, Peggy?
Okay, that communications from questions or communications from board members or community members will be acknowledged within 72 hours.
Or administration, but also
Or
administration.
administration
And
will be,
administration, yes.
right, will be acknowledged within 72 hours.
And no acknowledgement mean that we look, we thank you, we got the email. It doesn't have to be
Right.
extensive.
I mean, I'm not really sure what we're entitled, to know. I don't know if the Board of Education is entitled to know what the hiring and firing and resignation, the status of those things are. But I do, sometimes we have at various times been surprised by shifts in employment. But I don't know whether, I don't really know what the policy is on that.
I think
Maybe-
with an acknowledgement, I think what Marie is talking about is an acknowledgement that at least I received your email. Thank you for your email. Whether they're gonna explain to you the rationale or answer you any that specific problem that you might have, that's up to what do you call it? Up to the discretion of the individual. Some stuff cannot be
Answered right away
Answered-
or
yeah,
or
answered.
in public.
but at least there should be that, from what I understand, is an acknowledgement that you sent an email. Thank you. I received it. Now, if they want to respond to what your concern is, they may. If
Right.
they don't
Or
think
we'll be
it's appropriate.
responding back to you as soon as possible.
If
Either
they-
it could be they'll be responding back, or thank you for your information, we'll pass it along, but something so that you feel like you've been acknowledged. To sit there and send an email to Mr. Lumia saying, hey, you know what? I saw, there's this big, huge crater in the middle of Van Wyck's parking lot, and no acknowledgement. Like, you don't know if anybody received it. And one of the biggest questions I get is, does the board receive, or does administration receive, or does personnel receive emails when I send it? And I always say, of course we do. We read all of them, but sometimes just that, thank you for forwarding this information to me. We're looking into it. Or thank you for this information, just so that you know that it's not just sitting out there in space and, it's.
Marie, there's only one problem I can see. How are you going to measure that? How is it going to be measurable? Who's going to keep track?
As far as the community, it's going to be hard unless we get a lot of complaints. If we still get people walking up to us saying that nobody ever responds to them, and we say, did you respond to them? And, oh, no, I didn't, then we're going to know. But as far as board members, we would know if we're being responded to. Administration can report, hey, I asked Ms. Johnson to get back to me on, turning in some papers for one of her committees, and she's never even acknowledged me. Then we're going to know. So it is measurable when we do our self-evaluation or any others. So there is acknowledgement there.
I guess feel.
You would have to have emails, earmarked or categorized as requests, and then you would have to aggregate them, and then you would have to analyze how many of them are, it could be dumb, but it would be,
Are we going to have an
It's gonna
exact
be hard.
number? But I can tell you, I have emails that come up after 4 days of not getting an acknowledgement. It comes up with a ding mark on me, on my board email. If I send something out and I request something and I don't get an answer, it comes up in my emails that, do you want to follow up? You haven't gotten a response.
How do you get that?
I get it. It comes up as a little yellow line underneath your email.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah,
Alberta, you're still there?
she's laying down. She had an
Her back
issue. So
hurts.
She had a what?
she hurt her back, so she's in the other
Oh.
room.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I can check into that and see how feasible it is to go forward.
That's a way of measuring it.
Yeah.
I mean, people may not appreciate being, big brothered or micromanaged in that way, but
It's not
I
always
I think we're
micromanaged.
kind of, may I finish? I think we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place there, where you want it to be quantifiable, but then you have to look at, what effect on morale being micromanaged has. So, you have to weigh both of those things.
But it's
Look,
not
The whole
always
objective is,
micromanaged.
in my opinion, just an acknowledgement. I received it. As far as I'm concerned, they do not have to, other than receiving it, it's up to the person receiving it to be able to determine whether they're going to answer that particular question or not? Maybe that information is not, should not be
Right.
shared.
I mean, kudos, like, I mean, we can acknowledge, a kudos goes out. I can say without a doubt, every time we ask a budgetary financial question of Kristen Crandall, I get a, thank you for your email. It's going to be either in the weekly memo review or here's a response.
Right.
Every single time she responds and just, I got your email. Every time. I've never had Kristen not respond to an email, even if it's something stupid as, I can't find this information that we're voting on Monday. Do you know where I can find it? I always get a response, always from her.
Fine,
Never
that's the
fail.
goal.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to acknowledge
I
here.
mean, that's, I think it's a, fine. Everybody agree with that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Fine.
I
Okay?
think another goal should be, since a number of people mentioned it, something on cultural and social responsiveness.
I was going to say that too. Yes,
I was going to say it too.
we have to.
We have to. I think it will validate not only the other board members, but also it will validate our community that we find this to be important.
So here's the
Um,
thing, do we adopt a K through 12 curriculum? And as an elementary school teacher, I can tell you that every time there was an initiative and they adopted a new curriculum, they never took anything out.
Yes.
So, you know, then it becomes, this is great. When am I supposed to teach it? You know, you've got all of these other requirements. I mean, I would often do these things and I would just kind of horn it into my social studies curriculum, but there's no way you can do it without other things falling off the table. And I made that choice as a teacher that there are certain things that I thought were important to teach, more important than what the state was saying. Don't quote me on this. This is a public meeting, but you know, you have to be sensitive to the pressures that are on teachers.
I
So,
agree.
The thing is, should we dictate the teachers what to culturally teach our students? Is that their job?
I don't know if that,
it's history.
I'm
It's
sorry,
history.
that's a
that-
different
that-
story, history.
Yeah,
What-
that we have a history that is biased that we've been teaching. And we need to teach a more inclusive global type history. That's not opinion. That
I cannot say I was a math teacher. I
It's
never
not
saw that, so I
touchy-feely.
can't address that
it's
at all.
fact. Well, that's not generally something a math teacher does.
And I'm
As
just
a
saying
matter
that,
of
that
fact,
I never saw that problem. Maybe I was naive and stupid, but you're right. You're an elementary school teacher. You taught us all that stuff. I mean, the kids should know our history, whatever that might be. And it should not
matter
be
of
biased.
fact-
It should not be biased towards anybody. So,
we
Yeah,
should
that's-
teach all four sides of history, not just two sides. I
yes,
think that's the way we make the most well-informed choices, is to know every, you know, the 360 degrees of the history. And I feel like that is something that we might not always are able to do at this point.
I
Let's-
I
can we
would like,
come
what, John?
Are able.
Say something. As a former social studies teacher, as well as a former elementary school teacher, history has been diminished over the years a great deal. We do not teach anywhere near as much history as we used to. As a matter of fact, when I was in elementary school, using a textbook written in the 1930s, we had a lot more inclusive information about the American Indians, and it was very pro-Indian, I must say. So, you know, as a child, we used to play Indian, which was sort of like camping, but with heroism thrown in. So it was, you know, but has just been cut down so much because they're not teaching much social studies anymore in elementary school. Everything's been reading, math, and science. And so is something we need to pay attention to. And perhaps as a goal, we could ask the district to set up a committee to explore how this can be done.
I like that
So let's-
idea.
So let's formulate the goal. What's it, that's your goal?
So then the
Let's
goal
do it.
would
Well,
be,
that's
the
kind of,
goal would be
Linda.
to establish a curriculum committee that examines how to inject a
Incorporate-
more
incorporate.
inclusive teaching of history and maybe integrate it into social studies and ELA so that it doesn't become an add-on.
Good. That's an excellent goal. I
Good.
agree with it. Did you get that, Marie?
I'm working on it. Hold on. I'm trying to take notes and still be part of the conversation. So this really does kind of go a little bit along with what Mr. Spencer, myself, and Mr. Rubin were talking about, trying to help it. I don't know about you, but I've read a lot of emails recently, and one of the emails did state about how they remember 25, 30 years ago that their children got, taught quite a bit about the local indigenous people that lived here
Yes.
before the colonies, and that now it's not being as taught as much. And that was some of the stuff that, unfortunately, as Linda's referenced and Ms. Kellen, is that it's kind of slipped off the plate. There was too much on there and it spilt over, and unfortunately we've lost that, and we're not teaching the history of what was really part of this area and part of the culture that, I think we've tried to maintain, but maybe it's been miscued a lot over recent years. So I love this to establish. This would be a sub-curricular committee, correct?
Yeah, in a way.
Okay.
Ad hoc.
It would be something it would be basically a smaller committee just to explore how we can do this, and it would be history into,
Well, I
social
think we
studies.
could allow the district to come up with how they would like to do it. But we would like to see a committee dealing with this,
I agree.
whether it's a board committee, a district committee.
I think it would be a district committee.
a
Yes,
district
I don't
committee,
wanna
I
The
think.
take
district
on what they
committee,
have.
yes. So we should not really be
Right.
defining it too closely.
Just to find a goal and
No,
let the
just
district decide how they're
to
gonna do it.
establish some cultural history, local and national, or local, national, and world.
Well, culturally responsive.
Okay.
I mean, definitely local and
Yes.
Local, the emphasis should be local.
Yes, it should start with that. If they go on
Right.
to more, that's good too.
I mean, it could be anywhere from a curriculum that you purchase to just requiring that teachers diversify their literature.
Yes, yes. And there's a lot of material. As a matter of fact, when I was in third grade, that was the social studies curriculum for the year, the American Indians. And when I got to college, there were students from all over the country, and we noticed that was the one thing that was consistent around the whole country, that third graders studied the Indians.
I remember doing that in Florida.
Yeah,
lived in
sure, it was
Florida.
everywhere.
It's too
I
bad that
knew
the-
everything there was to know about the Seminole Indians because that's what was local down there,
Right.
and
Although I don't
we
think,
actually did
I think
speak
they're
on what their
as
culture was.
indigenous people now, and because Indians is what the colonists called them because they didn't know who they were. So you would have to say Native Americans or indigenous people.
Correct. I'm just saying
Yeah.
at the time we learned about the Seminoles in that area.
the
So,
Roman
so-
Indians.
Looking into the cultural responsiveness will be number 3. Number 2, set a guideline for communication acknowledgement
Administrative responsiveness.
and administrative responsiveness. And then the number 1 goal is to try and set a guideline to get the academic raw figures so that we can try and start a platform to see how we're
Yeah.
progressing or not
Right.
progressing.
Right.
each
And
Raw
year. So
scores
that
as
would be
well
the
as cut
control.
scores.
I also would like to see a goal whereby kids, what they learn in the classroom should be learned to be applied in real life.
Mhm.
You know, I teach.
How do
Let's
we
get
measure that?
let's get these three nailed first, and we can add that one on, because that would go into the academic one next year and help, once we get everything set for guiding it and registering where we're at, then we can see how we can move that information forward into being used in practical life. No? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Look, everything we learned. Look, my biggest thing when I taught is that I taught mathematics, but I wish I did more application oriented mathematics so the kids can see, hey, this stuff is used in the real world. Get a project done, get a project going so that kids can actually apply what I taught them in real life situations. You know, set up experiments to do. And I think that if they do that, you're going to motivate kids to learn more.
I used
I
I
have to
used to do a project with fourth graders where they had to design their own room. So
good.
they had
That-
to
that
measure
ma-
the perimeter and the area of their room. They had to go to local hardware stores and, they had to understand the tiles were square area and, wallpaper or the molding around the room would be perimeter, and the families were involved, and it was fabulous. I mean, the kids were so motivated.
And kids
They would draw
appreciate it,
pictures.
why they're learning it.
Right.
And honestly, I will say first up, and I'm sure Miss Kellen can probably back me on this, because she's done a lot of the teacher college that unfortunately we had to disband this year. But these teachers, I have to say, I don't know of any teachers that don't try in some way, fashion, or form to do something with their classes every year. I mean, we have some really great teachers in our district, and they do try to incorporate that in some point. Would I love to see more? Yeah, but they'd also love to see, more time in their day, as well. But I think we do have a lot of teachers that try to achieve that. And just encouraging them as a board, I think, would be the best way to get them to go forward with more projects. But I think
I don't think that the district has dismantled the Teachers College program. They're just not.
we
We're
didn't
doing it
renew
internally.
it.
We're doing it internally.
We're not renewing the professional development, but they have internal people who will be
Correct.
Right.
furthering.
But we're not hiring the Teachers College to come in this current
Right,
year.
but we're not dismantling.
But as far as them coming into, we're not paying for a service this year, but the ones that participated in the last couple of years, I believe those teachers are able to help formulate programs going forward, I'm sure.
They're going to turn key.
So, but I do. There? Oh, okay. But I do think that we have some great teachers that have definitely tried to push this forward, in my opinion.
I think the remote learning situation has opened it up for more family projects, since those are the sort of things that can be done with families when they're all stuck at home together.
You're right. You're very right. And I would love for us to all be back in brick and mortar in September, 100% with no mask, but that doesn't seem to be what's going to be on the plate this year. And we will have to see where we go. And I'm sure that our teachers are going to do everything they can to make it as educational as possible in the times that we're at, because I have faith in our teachers more than anything else in our district. That's my opinion.
I think
So-
we all share that opinion.
Yes.
And if you look at the guidelines that the state gave us, to me,
It's a difficult one.
there's no way.
I do
no
not
way.
envy you, Ms. Hillen or Ms. Rappaport, on those committees helping our administration along in this. And I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. It's going to be interesting.
Right, good luck.
Yeah.
But I do want to say thank you. I think we've got some good stuff that we can look at here. I'm going to write up all of our words of wisdom and notes And I'm going
About
to,
the fourth thing about the close number of schools, that should be a,
I believe that's something that I don't want to make that as a goal, John. I think that's just a discussion.
that's a
as
discussion.
board
That's,
we
I
would
want a discussion of that.
Yeah, I think it
something we can
would
do
have
as a
been,
discussion.
I'm sorry,
I think
Peggy?
it would have been a good one for this year, but right now with the social distancing, we're probably going to need every inch of space we've got. But I think in the future, it's certainly a good thing to be looking at for doing once we are all back in school with the
Peggy,
vaccine or whatever.
As much as I like to agree, social distancing, there's no way that we can accomplish social distancing. There's no way.
None-
Unless you have,
with a
unless you have,
Not with a full in-school model.
No,
what's that?
not full school. But
No,
again, we also have to keep in mind, when we think about possible closings, we have to also remember that we have several building developments that are going in, and we have to keep those numbers in mind when we talk about those things. So that's all a big discussion, and maybe Trustee Sloshower would be able to let us know how many homes we're supposed to be getting into the area, because we have 2 or 3, I believe, new residential developments coming into our district coming up. So, I mean, that's something that we also have to take into account when we talk about that. But I think Ms. Kellen is 100% correct that we need to keep in mind that we're going to need every available space possible, because I don't think we're going to be full school, but we'll see what they come up with for us.
I mean, I don't really, this is my opinion, but I don't know how they're going to address the needs of special ed children and ELLs and, children who are supposed to be getting PT and OT and speech, particularly, 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds on a laptop.
I agree with you.
And then what do we do with families who are not in compliance, who aren't showing up? I mean, I think that there are a lot of, I think we have to have a partial.
Yes, and I think that what you were saying about special ed classes and the youngest children, I think, we should try to have them in regularly, because if their parents are sending them to daycare on alternate days, they're coming back with a whole bunch of other germs, and the people, they were exposed to a whole different group of people, and then they come back and all the children have been exposed to other cohorts. That would only make it worse. So but again, the problem is space and the problem is staff. Because even if you have a teacher dealing with what?
How are you going to transport these kids in one bus?
Exactly, that's another
I
problem.
mean, unless you get
Is
400
this
buses.
on our Monday night agenda to discuss any of this so that you guys have more information, or no?
No, there's nothing. I don't, let me check to make sure. I don't think there's no.
I know there's no plan, but I don't know if there's a way for some of us, because when we talk about the special ed, all your self-contained classes are no more than 115-1, which is 1 teacher, 15 students, 1 teaching assistant. Most of those rooms are pretty spacious. Would we have to box up and rearrange their classrooms so that we could space them out? We could get 15 kids in most of the elementary classes for self-contained.
I don't think that you can get them to social.
The problem is, Linda, Marie, we have to transport these kids. We're going to transport these kids, and that's a problem.
Most of your self-containeds are on the smaller vans, and there is room. My daughter, when she rode that, she was one of 8 kids on the bus. So we'd have to double check, because a lot of your self-containeds are port to ports. And that would be numbers we'd have to get from Ms. Crandall. Some of them are a little more, some of them are less. That would be your self-contained. As far as your ICTs, we'd have to double check on that and check their 504s and IEPs. There's a lot more work to that. And I agree with Ms. Kellen. You have to take into consideration, if you put them into daycare, what are they getting and what are they bringing in when they go in part-time 2 days or 3 days a week into our schools, and what are they subjecting the other kids? And a lot of these kids have immune systems that you have to be a little more careful with. I mean, there's a lot to go on. So, I mean, I would love to be able to have a board discussion on this. And so that you guys can bring some of the other board members' concerns back to your committees and say, you know, maybe you guys have already thought about all of these things, but maybe we might have an idea that maybe you guys didn't get. It's always good. So, I mean, it's out there. We can
I think
always
the
bring
board
it up
discussion will take place after.
on Monday.
I think the board discussion will take place after all these committees come with their recommendations. To do it Monday, it's not enough time.
That's fine. That's fine. August 3rd is a great day. It's my anniversary. I like to spend my
Oh,
birthday.
Congratulations.
Happy anniversary.
You guys,
to
I
you.
don't even spend it with my family. I spend it with my board family because you guys are more important.
Yippee, yippee,
Um,
yippee.
No cake for you, John. No cake for you.
Thanks a lot.
I
I
would like-
appreciate it.
I really will have everything typed up tonight. I'm going to work on everything. I'm going to type everything up. I will send everything in emails to everybody, not only here, but on the board as a whole.
Since
I'm going to type up everybody's ideas that were originally given to me so that everybody is aware of everybody's input and ideas. I don't want anybody to think that they were left out.
Well, on
'cause
Monday,
it's
on
about
Monday,
everybody.
on Monday, there is a board and district goals. So I guess it's gonna be just board goals on Monday.
Yes,
So
I'm
send-
gonna
send
have
that- send
everything
that
typed
to,
up. We've
Alberta.
pretty much come up- Yes, you're gonna have everything by tomorrow morning in your email and also in everybody else's email. Tonight, that is my job, is to type everything up. Everything will be sent to Alberta. I will send an email to all of the board members as well. And then we will have something posted for presentation. I'll have it all together for Monday.
Thank you.
Is that
Alberta,
okay with
I hope you
you
feel
guys?
better,
If
Alberta.
you have any problems with what I send you, email me back. I'll take care of everything before Monday. Is that good?
I'll wait for 72 hours.
It would be Monday. I want you to have everything, hopefully by tomorrow morning for you guys to review. But if you have any other issues, and again, I want everybody to be able to see everybody's ideas that were submitted. And so that they know that we did take into consideration, and some of them you guys had some great answers for. So that might also help other people on the board.
All right.
So I do appreciate it.
Linda,
And
where are you,
I think
Linda?
we're good.
I'm in California.
How's the weather over there?
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's
you-
chilly, a little chilly in the morning and nice and warm in the afternoon.
Are you close to the water?
I'm close to, yeah, but it's not, I mean, this is Northern California. It's really,
Oh,
it's like redwood foresty. It's just
Oh,
gorgeous.
Nice.
It's
That's
beautiful.
a dream. I want to go there.
enjoy.
Yes.
Be careful with the earthquakes.
That's- I think-
I think that's everything. Any other questions or suggestions? No?
No.
Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I make that
I
motion.
see Mr. Lumia
Second.
and Miss Kellen seconds, and we're all, I believe Miss Linton Rappaport's gonna agree with me. So let us adjourn, and thank you, Miss Pedro, for all of your assistance today.
You're
Yes.
welcome, everyone. Good night.
I hope you feel
Good
better,
night.
Alberta.
Thank
Feel
you.
better,
Have a
Alberta.
nice
Have a
weekend,
great
everyone.
Thank you.
Better, Alberta.